My name is Becky Bowers. I'm the Northern Sales Manager here at Data Direct. Stuart is our admin team this morning, so he will be, if you've got any questions that you want to ask during Ray's talk, if you want to just pop them on a chat. And then Luke over here, who is our Chief Technical Officer, and Mr. Smartmaster himself, or Mr. Juice, as I will now start calling him. So we'll get started with Ray, and we'll just do a quick overview of the Smartmaster first of all, the main machine.
Okay, well, SmartMister is a device where we try and copy nature and try and make your office the same as the seaside. But what we do is we take Hockle, which is the chemical you found in your body, its own immune system. It's the chemical that we use to fight off bacteria and infections that rushes to the wound. That fights infection. We take that to liquid, we turn it into a gas with this device. And this device, what it does is it takes air in the back of it through an activated carbon filter and HEPA filter. It then runs through a UVC light, which basically sterilizes the air, and then an ionization tool that changes the ions in the air. Once it does that, it runs through a circulation pump, and then it hits an ultrasonic atomizer, which turns the liquid into a gas. It adopts it, and then basically squirts out the top. And when it comes out there, it uses a sensor on the back to work out the temperature of the room, the humidity of the room, and then that delivers whatever it thinks is the right amount of Hockle as a gas in the room. It does that as a gas that's lighter and thinner than air, so it travels with the air and uses it to get everywhere. And then basically that gas that travels around will land on all the surfaces and basically make anything inert there. And it's a dry thing that you can stick your eyeballs in, you can breathe it in, etc. It's a dry product, it's not wet. But that travels around and it sanitizes all the surfaces. It strips out things like pathogens in the air, things like pollens, mushroom spores, makes them bigger, fatter, and heavier. They fall to the ground. You wipe it up with a cloth next morning, you hoover it away, and then basically it does that to a couple of international standards. In this case, the 1276, 13704. And those standards basically prove that the surface is clinically clean. And basically, you've got test results from labs for this product, but if you want, you can do your own swab test, like the NHS do per area, and swab out an area and basically check that it's working.
So the DT5300, which is the original Smartmaster that you're actually touching now, yep, is a deep sanitization product. So that will actually do a deep sanitization in your company, so that, like for example, here we've got machines downstairs, we've got machines upstairs, the same as you guys have in Finch Hampstead. I know that when I come into the office in the morning, there's been a deep sanitization and the office is safe and my desk and my area is safe.
Yes, it's like if a school is told that the track and trace database, so if someone's got the track and trace database app and they're told that someone the night before had COVID and they need to close down and do a deep clean, you wheel this in and run it for the appropriate time, and that will do a deep clean of the premises. And all you have to do afterwards is just basically wipe it off the surfaces and hoover that up. And then it has another mode that allows you to do a top up every day. So you could do a deep clean once whenever you think, and then do a top up. And there's a software app as well that allows you to control the system so that you can effectively turn it on, turn it off, set schedules up.
And you could turn this machine on and off up here as well at the same time as using that one?
Yeah, I can control multiple machines on multiple sites and say, turn these ones on in a Tuesday night to do a deep clean, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to do a top-up version of it, and use the app to control things. It also gives you feedback of the humidity and temperature of the room, which come towards the end of the year will be more important, because standards like the well-being standards basically says that you have to keep buildings between 40 and 60% humid for the health of people. If it's below 20%, you have 70% more chance of catching a virus. So we use the feedback to manipulate things there. And then that travels round, it sanitizes everything. So high touch areas like a desk where your elbows are rubbing against it, or light switches, it has to persist legally for 1 hour after you've been touching it. And if you don't touch it, it's 3 to 18 hours that it persists.
So this machine, unlike any others that kind of claim to do these kind of things like fogging machines, etc., the SmartMister gets everywhere. So even under the desk, on the chewing gum, that type of thing?
Yeah, fogging machines still have their place, but they were the only thing that people knew how to use before. And the problem is they're not regulated. No one knows what you should put in them and what you should do. So it's where PPE equipment, masks, make sure everybody's out of the room, tape up the room, and they're generally a wet, invasive solution that can take, say, up to 3 days because it has to dry off afterwards. So you go in and fog it, you have to spend a lot of money on labour, and then you have to clean it all off and take things like computers out, or if you've got oil paintings in a premises or anything precious like books, you've got to take those out. Whereas this is a dry product, you don't have to remove paper or books from it. It achieves the same thing, but it's automated and much cheaper to use than fogging.
So you mentioned briefly before, Ray, what standards does this product live up to? And how do we prove that it lives up to these standards?
So it falls into 2 camps. So you see the unit itself, the liquid that we put, the HOCO, hypochlorous acid, this has about 14 different European and British standards to basically do everything from preserve foods to kill germs to just do all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So that has lots of standards for that. And then we have a standard for delivery of the products. So the standards have been around for like 25 years in food production. So they'll spray this into a warehouse that's storing something like cheese to stop bacteria eating cheese. We put it in corn to stop the little mite thing basically eating the corn. If you live in London, you've got 7% of this in your water. They use it to kill bacteria in water, and it's used in certain beers as well as a way of stopping the yeast from overdoing itself. So it's used in all sorts of places. And there's a new standard coming out for 2021 now, which is where basically this one, it's lost the camera. So BS 17272. We're just putting it through in March for this because it gets released in April. And this is a brand new standard for COVID-19 and COVID-21 just for release, for proving you can kill with an automated system. So we're just going through that. And then there was another standard 14476 that just came out in the 9th of January to prove that you can kill COVID in hospitals and other clinical premises. We've got the certificate for that one just the other day. So we're going through lots of standards and as many as we can find that are relevant. But we've got a standard to prove that the surface is good enough to prepare, manufacture food off and eat without any pathogens, virus. And we've got standards to say that anything that lands in here will die. And other ones basically talking about the health sides of it as well.
Okay. So when we're talking about proving that it actually does what we say it does, we've gone through, I mean, Data Direct and obviously Ray, you know, when the pandemic first initially happened, it was something we realised overnight that the print industry had probably changed forever. You know, the print side of people's businesses just dropped so dramatically. And what we decided to do was try and find some products, some business machines that our customers could sell into their customers that one, is still a business machine that actually they can sell with things like a consumable, being the SmartMister solution, but also, you know, trying to keep their customers safe at the same time. So a lot of work and effort has been put into this range of machines and the testing of them, making sure that the SmartMister solution works to what we say it does. And ultimately, we also can do a test, can't we, Ray, to prove actually it's doing what we say it does?
Yeah. one of the links we put on our dealer website side of things is a link to an NHS videos where they're taking these swabs, and basically they'll swab above doors or on desks, etc. And then they put it into a machine on site or send it off to a lab, and that gives them a clean score to prove that they've actually sanitized to a certain level. Just like operating theatres used to do, they basically extended that into doing corridors and toilets and everywhere. So you can do the same test. Effectively, we can supply you with a kit. We give you this sticker in the box that goes onto a desk or above a door. You swab it, and basically scan into the database the results, send it back to us. We give the results that goes in a database, and we ferret it backwards and forwards, and that'll tell you whether you're legally allowed to open up again.
And this is to insurance level as well, isn't it, Ray?
Yeah, that's only if you're going, we'll call it over the top, and you've been told that you need to close down and do a deep clean and reopen. And normally they would expect, you'd say a pub was told, in Aberdeen, a pub was told to close down because they had the COVID outbreak from that pub. And then, so they have to do a deep clean, and then they're expected to open about 3 days later because it takes so long to do it. So they wheeled this in, basically gasified the whole area, and then an hour later do the swabs and then prove that they've made a 6-log reduction in the pathogens that this picks up, and they're allowed to open 1 hour after they're told to close down. So they went from 3 days of lost income to 1 hour of lost income and a bit of time to do the swabs. So that would be in extreme cases where you've got to prove to an authority. So you scan in the database and then basically record that. We have little stickers we give out with the system as well, these sort of things. And then you put that onto a desk or somewhere, and then every time you clean the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you could record when you last tested it, and then put that into a book, and then prove that you've kept up with your sanitation levels. So there's a methodology to follow to prove how you clean. And that methodology is in an NHS document and in the wellbeing building management document as well.
So you also have another way of showing that actually where the SmartMister is getting to as well, which obviously isn't ultimate, proof as in what the swab test is. But if you were going out to show a customer the product and show them how it's working and where it's actually, what areas it's getting to, we have a product that you can use to do that.
We do. There's a simple way that we have a little particle sensor, and basically if that number there is above 47, you've got enough of the hoggle in the air to sanitize the air. If it's above 144, there's enough to be sanitizing all the chairs and the desks and all the rest of it. Because I turned it on a little bit, there's still some left in the air. But if I turn this on now, after a small amount of time, so you could turn the SmartMister on in the far left-hand corner of your office, you could walk 10 meters away down a corridor, and then with this detect whether the mist from this is getting to you. So even at times you can't see the mist, it's so thin, you can watch this number going up and go, right, it's got to 400. So I know for sure it gets along this corridor. I know for sure it gets along above the government levels that are recommended. So it's fine. It's going up at the moment, 400, 500. So right now this room is filling with the mist. Yeah. When that gets to above 700 and something, it's actually too much for this one little area. And if that was like it's getting to 900, if that was right below, say, a smoke alarm, it would confuse the smoke alarm and could set that off. Some alarms, the good quality ones don't go off, and the bad ones can. But it's gone up and down. It's a little went to 900, it's come back to 4 because it travels around in waves. And basically this device allows you to see where it's got to and the concentrations of it, and know that effectively, even though you can't see it, it's getting to you. So it's a handy little tool.
So the one thing that we won't discuss during these webinars is pricing. That's something that you guys need to speak to your account manager about, because all these videos do get uploaded to our YouTube site. So if there is any pricing that you want to discuss at all, then please get in touch with your account manager at the end. Things like the particle sensor and the SmartMister and the solution itself. So we'll just revert back to coverage, Ray. So what do we say that the SmartMister's coverage will be using one bottle of the 5 litre?
So that one's slightly harder to answer because it depends on what international standards you're going for. If you're doing a deep clean mode, then you use more of the liquid. So what we do is on the documentation, we say the bottle of this will last 962 meters squared. And then depending how you use it and the shape of your building, etc., it normally works out about 31 days, 32 days for 5 litres of this in a reasonable size office. But it will cover 81 meters cubed at the highest government regulations. And it will cover nearly twice as much as that is enough just to sanitize. But there's a table in documentation that you can follow, and then the user manual's got some guides on how to place it and how to use it. But it's kind of like 14 meters squared is the smallest it will do, 81 meters squared is the biggest it will do. And when I say squared, we turn that into cubic meters by presuming that a ceiling height is 3.5 meters high down to 2.3 meters high. So it is converted. To simplify it, we're talking in square meters. But 81 square meters roughly at the highest level. More, and that's per hour. So if you leave it on for an hour and a half, it will do a bigger room. But right next to where you put the unit might deliver too much of it, and you might get a grey powder that builds up and things. So it'll still do it, but so you can leave it on for longer.
So we tend to use ours in the Bradford office. We put it on once a morning before our earliest person comes in, who actually comes in at 5 o'clock. So we put it on at around about 4 o'clock in the morning for around about an hour. I think we've knocked it down to about half an hour now, because it does actually get even downstairs as well on the upstairs one, but we obviously use the downstairs one as well. And that and a 5 litre bottle does quite easily, quite comfortably last us a month. What dealers seem to be doing with it is there's some dealers that are looking to lease the product. There are some dealers that are looking to sell them out on a monthly contract, which includes 1 bottle of SmartMister solution, and then charge thereafter for SmartMister solution. There are other dealers that are doing it on like a daily cost, like £1, £2, whatever it is, for the machine over so many years. So they're all different ways of looking at doing it. And again, that's something that you're better off having a word with your account manager about. But you know, there is consumables to be had with this as well, isn't there, Ray?
Yeah, and places that I've put it into, like a care home and chiropractor and things, they start to find other uses for the liquid. So they'll put it into a mister and squirt on a desk and wipe it off that way, sort of thing. Or they'll put it into a fine mister and then basically use it for the faces and hands. Great for your skin and these kind of things. So people find all different uses for it. Or you're running around saying a toilet or taking it in their car.
To be honest, I mean, we do actually, the one upstairs, the girls have always said, because we've got some girls that work in our office, and obviously myself is included in this, and we've noticed that our skin is softer because of the SmartMister.
Yeah. It basically goes into your skin, because it's so fine, it goes into the 7th layer, the dermis of your skin, and then your body thinks that it's got Hockle from the outside, and then it makes Hockle from the inside. So it actually ends up boosting your immune system by about a factor of 10. And the result of that is your skin becomes a bit regenerated. But the salt particles in it make it feel smooth. So people really like it, and it's really good for your hair as well.
And in an age of, you know, we're all talking about alcohol products as far as, you know, I'm not talking about pubs, guys, that hopefully will be soon. I'm talking about alcohol products to clean your hands and, you know, to sanitize and all. That's all we seem to be talking about at the moment. Yeah. Whereas this is a completely safe product. You know, you can leave your food out overnight, I presume, Ray?
You can. Apples in a supermarket are already covered in this. It's already put on things like tomatoes and apples and quite a lot of different fruits to stop them rotting and stopping mushroom spores from eating away and forming funguses. So it's used in all sorts of places. That one is sold in Boots the Chemist for £94, and there's two versions of it. One it's used is as put it in your mouth to get rid of bad breath, etc. It's also sold as a thing to repair your gums. And in America, this is sold for about $60 to $100, and they use it as a skincare product. So basically, they put it on spots and rub it around, and it boosts your immune system. It's also sold as antifungal infection for nails, so you put it on your feet, or to get rid of males as opposed to females produce a bacteria from their feet when they sweat, and basically it kills that off almost instantly. So it's used there.
We noticed last year as well, didn't we, that when we first started using it down south, one of the guys there who's got quite bad allergies as far as pollen.
Yeah, the pollen. When we first started to do it, I think it was May or April when he had a problem, but he suffers badly from pollen, so hay fever, and we back onto farmland, and everybody else wants the windows opened in the summer. So the windows open, the pollen comes in, and he's on the app, he's on his phone the day before, trying to work out whether he's going to be suffering, whether he needs to take tablets before he can go to work. And this year we basically had this running at night time, so he would come in and the place was sanitized. And he never once had a day off work, and he never once was sniffling, and he never thought about it until after the event, when we said when it got to sort of, was it, I can't remember exactly, it was July or August or something, we mentioned to him, asking him, and he never had a single day's problem with it, because it gathers all the pollen, surrounds it, and it basically makes it not fall down. It takes big things like pollen out of the air, and he felt great about it. It's a bit like being at the seaside. When you go to get the sea air has got lots of small salt particles in it from sea surf, it's called, and that sea surf that's in the air stops any big things like pollens attaching to it, so you don't go up your nose because they're too big, and it's just like that. So it's just like the sea air. It even has that same summer smell.
Yeah, absolutely. It does smell very clean indeed. But I think this going forward as well is a really important thing, because obviously we're all talking about COVID at the moment, and it's something that none of us really want to talk about forever. But it probably is going to be around for a long time. But so are other things. When people start coming back into the office, there's norovirus, there's flus, there's colds, there's all these kind of things. But we do want to get people back into an office, and this machine will enable that. It will mean that there can be hot desking. There can be people making sure that they feel safe when they come back to work.
Yeah, one of the new tests for COVID-19 and COVID-21 that's in this standard coming out for April is quite scary as well, because they're talking about all different variations of COVID-21 now, that you've got to put in a tank, you've got to put in live virus cultures, and then set a sneezing test up within half a metre and prove that they die of spitting it out up to 21 miles an hour at that speed. So they're talking about all sorts of mutations of viruses as well that you have to prove. And come September, there's going to be, as part of the Clean Air Act in Britain and the Wellbeing Initiative of the rest of the world, buildings that occupy more than 16 people are going to have to start to prove the air quality and have systems in to actively improve the quality of air and water and the environment that people are working in. So this is one of the devices that we've been making sure that it complies with all of that documentation when that comes out in September onwards. Because we're all getting more wary to viruses now, and it is becoming a normal thing where buildings occupying more than people, like supermarkets and train stations, will all have to actually do something legally going forward now.
Well, it's definitely a future thing, isn't it? I mean, we did, when we initially started off, you did a quite a big case study with a chiropractic clinic, which is on our YouTube channel as well. But if you want to just give a quick overview of what happened there.
Yeah, that one was, I go to a chiropractor, and when the first pandemic happened, he had to close down because they're skin-to-skin contact people and not allowed to stay open. And he asked his governing board what you need to do to reopen. And they say, well, you need to prove your cleanliness and your lack of pathogens and lack of other things. And well, how do you do that? And he said, well, they gave him these swab test things. And when he did it himself, he failed. So we put this in. I offered to put this into him. We put this in, it's in reception, and it covers quite a few rooms round and a bit of upstairs. And now he got to a stage where it was taking him about an hour and a quarter after each patient. They had to wipe down the whole rooms and reception areas before he could allow another patient in. So instead of getting a patient in every 15 minutes, he was at one patient every hour and a bit. And then we put this in, and then he did the swab test afterwards and proved that he can get that down to a few minutes. So he's now 20 minutes between patients. It used to be 15, but he's only a little bit more, and more of that's to do with reception. So he can open up again. And then he said brand new customers that have came, because we supply them little stickers in the box that say the mist that you're seeing is sanitizing staff and you, keeping you safe. And we'll give them stickers that it puts up to say that the premises have been sanitized overnight to this standard. So he's actually getting new customers that come in because they think it smells clean because it removes all the funguses that cause smell. And they like the fact that it smells and tastes different in the air. It smells like seaside and really clean.
It certainly smells very clean, that's for sure. So as far as, there's one point you haven't mentioned, which is the baby mode on it, which is the small room mode.
Yes, there's two main modes on it. There's the deep clean mode, so you would do when you're told you need to close down and reopen up, or you want to do a once a month proper deep clean. And then what we call baby mode was actually meant for small rooms. And baby mode maintains the humidity at 50%, and basically it will take longer to distribute the gas round. And it's originally designed for smaller rooms, but it takes longer to distribute it around, but it doesn't set off smoke alarms, and it doesn't do a completely, overwhelming deep clean. It just tops it all up. So there's two modes in it. One is an automatic mode that will adjust, and then the other one is a fixed mode that spreads it out over a certain distance.
Okay, so I'll just let you know about one more thing before we move on to the new product ranges. As far as the SmartMister itself and the MiniMister and the SmartMister solution is concerned, the only warranties we give are based on the two being together. Now, this machine has been something that Ray's developed over the last year and made sure that actually, with our SmartMister solution, it does what we say it does. If you put something else into this machine, it probably will kill it. And the warranties won't be there. So, the two absolutely are hand-in-hand products. There's no point in even trying to put something else in it because it probably will kill it off. Yeah,
this is we've got a manufacturing partner that we've done work for chemical things in industry before, in food production, etc. And the difference with this is you can buy Hockle, but it's not stable. It will only normally last on the shelf for about a month, and then you've got to use it so many days after you open it. Whereas this, you can open it, allow air into it, and you've got a year. So this is actually encapsulated in a saline product, and then we break the bond of the saline in this to disperse it. So this is quite different. If you put a water diluted product in here, or you put a different version of Hockle that's not in a saline, this will actually, it will deliver it too thick, if you want to call it that. It won't actually come out in the right parts per million. So it took quite a lot of engineering to work out how to change the sound frequencies of the transducer to match the atomization of this liquid in salt.
Mm-hmm. So again, this is a product that is specifically made for you guys to be able to sell out there. So it's not something that anyone could just pick up from anywhere. It's something that we've developed for the copier dealers to be able to sell within the industry, and hopefully help staff to keep safe. But like I say, so warranties, ultimately it has to be the solution that goes with the Mister, and the same with the MiniMisters as well, which we'll come on to now.
So this is a big machine to do large office, large spaces, but it doesn't go into a toilet because a toilet doesn't have means electricity, and unless you put this on a trolley and a big long wire going in, it doesn't get through. So if you've got something behind, say, a fire door, or you've got, we're trying to get into a toilet or something, we do a little version of it. There's instructions of how to use it here and how to refill it, etc. And then this tells you what it does. But basically, you turn this one on, it gives out a mist, not to the same level as that one, and it will cover 4 meters round about of it. So if you're in a toilet, put it on your cistern, it will do the toilet. And if you've done a reception desk, you put one of these on your reception desk with a little sign beside it that tells people what it's actually doing. And then this basically is an internal battery that will run away for many hours. You can put 2 modes on it, one that's continuous and then one that stop, start, stop, starts. And that's kind of it. So this one is a small room, small meeting room, goes into a toilet, has a built-in battery, and then it'll just do a small area. So I've got a cleaner that basically now takes this in when she cleans people's offices and houses. She takes it and makes her feel safe about going into strangers' offices or houses. And you know, and then if other people have just used this to get rid of the smell of pets, wet dogs. So it's.
I know I mean we've got them here, and I must admit I can't wait for the idea. And I think I said it in the meeting last week as well. You know, the idea of being around family and friends again is so important to all of us. But you know, we're all going to be extremely cautious when that does happen. I've got a 70-year-old mother who's got MS, and I know that this will be put in my car before the first time I go and see her, because just to make us all feel that little bit more secure and that little bit more safe. I mean, how long would it take, Ray, for this to, you know, clear the?
This one is instant on contact, and this one needs about 3 minutes of running before it's got to a level where it's starting to do a job. So you've got to have this of a minimum of 3, and then normally about half an hour roughly running at a time would be fine for a small area. You can leave it on 24 hours a day. It won't last 24 hours a day, but I'm saying you can leave it on until the liquid runs out. So the liquid is basically in the bottom there.
Yeah.
And then that seals, so you can turn upside down, etc. But this will stay running for about 4 hours in full mode and about 10 hours in normal mode. Or you can plug a USB cable in and it will run until the liquid runs out, which I can't remember how long that is. I think it's 14 hours. And then just, you know, have it in the background.
And the great thing about it, I mean, obviously, ultimately, this is the one that does the deep clean. However, you know, for things like, I presume, you know, like you said, meetings, it could be on while we're having a meeting, just to give that little bit of reassurance. Taxi firms, anything that's got a small, I suppose, cab companies, lorry companies, hauliers, you know, all those kind of things would be ideal for this kind of thing, because literally you can put this in, leave it in there for 10 minutes, and actually the next driver can go in and do his day's work.
Yeah, and it's still sanitizing to the right levels as well. So, you know, it's delivering the liquid in a gas form, not to the sort of deep clean thing of that. So you couldn't have this instead. It's a top-up area, or put it in your toilet, or put it in, you know, a car before you get into it. These sort of things. It's great for that sort of scenario. We've started putting in some tests into reception areas of like a fish and chip shop or a cafe, and then basically that's just sitting at the side running away, and then people read the sign going, this mist is protecting staff and customers, and they feel a little bit better about exchanging money and touching things as well.
Oh yeah, I suppose even hairdressers and things like that would be another great one for this kind of thing, where actually, you know, it is something that's, you know, keeping people safe while they're there.
Yeah, you would need to have one per person space, because the current COVID rules is that people got spaced apart with shields. So it technically be one of these per person's one space.
But again, would it be, you know, something that you could move in, do what it needs to do, and then move it out after?
Yeah, you could move it in, turn it on, let it go for a few minutes, and then move a person to that space.
Yeah.
Whilst you're occupying that space, it'd be fine. So yeah.
So it's a great little add-on tool as well, along with the DT5300.
And it's really good at getting rid of bad smells as well. So you put it in places that builds up smells, It's really good at that. It's the deodorant side of it is really good.
I know the one thing that you see, Ray talks all the professional talk about what he actually does and things like that. If you hold the button down as well, it all lights up.
Yeah, I think it's a bad thing because it uses more battery and there's no practical purpose. But
one last thing before we open the floor to everyone is just as far as maintenance is concerned on both machines. What we talk about as far as maintenance is concerned on the big SmartMister.
the big one, you lift the lids, you take the tank out from upside down, and then you've got to clean it once a month when it runs out of liquid. And that's generally, we do a cleaning kit, which makes life easier, but you wipe around any excess salt that builds up. There's some seals in it that will leak, pull air in, and you get the salt that's in the air, goes in, crystallizes, and you need to basically wipe that off. So we've got some isopropanol, some lint-free cloths, and an ultrasonic wand that you would clean the transducer, repeat that a couple of times, and that's kind of it. The carbon filter at the back, just wipe with a microfiber cloth and just wipe any dust that's got in. If you use it at home when there's pets or something, you may have pet hairs on it. But it's normally just maintained once a month. The little one, the only maintenance you can do really is the transducer that's in here, you can clean with a little straw, or maybe put a bit of white vinegar in the top of it occasionally if it clogs up. But if you use it all the time, it doesn't seem to clog up. So there's nothing really to do with this one. This one has an internal filter that might need to be changed every 6 months or a year. To be honest, I don't know how long yet, because I've only been running it for 4 months and I can't see any sign of any problems with it yet. So I don't know how long that one I've been using for a long time, and I know it inside out now. But this is still new.
So that's the mini portable one that we've obviously is here now. We do have, I mean, and this one can go in a car or a cab, etc. We have got one that we are looking to launch shortly, as far as cars concerned as well.
Yeah, the other one is one that will go in the car and drop into the cup holder. It's the same dimensions as a can of Coca-Cola, and basically that thing is, this one looks as if it's giving out more of a mist. Yeah. But it's not. It's actually 3 times thinner than this one. It's quite a strange look to it. So this is actually giving out less mist. It only looks more because it's more scattered. That's more anyway, they're different. But this one, put in a car and sanitize your car, and you can be driving with this one, and that's kind of it. It's just similar sort of thing, but to go in a car. So if you're worried about, if you're sharing a car with someone, put this one in, and it will run in the background and basically clean the air and get rid of pathogens from inside the car's cabin.
Okay.
This one you could put in the car before you get there, like we give one to all the taxis. They put that in between customers, and it deodorizes their cab and cleans their cab, and they just wipe it around with a cloth.
Which, to be fair, I think a lot of taxi firms do need to deodorize the cabs before they let people in. So whether or not it's just the cleanliness or for killing things, pathogens, I think it's a really worthwhile thing to do. So ultimately, this one's the one that does the deep sanitization. This one is then your next one in that will do, your space, and then the next one would be something for your car while you're in the car.
Yeah, and we've got the next things after that is we've got room filled. We've got data logging systems that screw on the wall and record all the data of how you clean it is and give you a clean score to meet the wellbeing standards of the WHO directive.
And obviously we've got coming over the next month or so the clean air products as well. So yeah, but there is a lot of new products that we've got coming for you guys that hopefully can enable you to sell more to your customers and keep them safe at the same time. So can we open it up to everyone, Stuart, so they can ask any questions that they have?
Hi, that was all very, very informative, Ray. Thank you very much. You've actually answered the 3 questions that I got, so
yeah, that's the problem with doing that.
Clear on it now. So very, very comprehensive. It certainly looks like a brilliant product. I know if you Google it on the internet, there's all sorts of people doing them in all sorts of different ways. So it's something I need to put my thinking head on, and I'll be back in touch with is it John Mann, the chap who I originally spoke to. He's given me some basic pricing, but I don't think it's got that many pricing in it as well. But seems like a good product you can add into the main one and what have you. So
yeah,
all very interesting, and I'm sure we can do something.
Fab. I'll get John to send that through to you as well. No problem at all. He'll send the information through on the price.
Well, what I'll do, I'll crunch the numbers and look at the applications and the type of people the people who I would approach initially to sell it to, and I'll be back onto it next week anyway.
I think Ray's thing more than anything is that proving it thing. There's a lot of people that are offering something similar to what the SmartMister is, but they can't prove that it will do what we say it does.
Well, you seem to have all the government approvals and regulations and
that
everything.
takes time. I started this in March last year.
Yeah, one of my questions was going to be if say an office you've got a bowl of fruit in the corner and the people come in the next morning, if they eat the fruit, is it going to affect them? Which obviously it's not from what you said.
If you buy apples from Sainsbury's, you've already got this on it.
You've already got it.
So, and if it's already in water, if you go to the Hilton Hotel in London and you drink their bottled water, you've got 7% of this in it. Right. And it's used in China in their water that they drink as well. So if you go into a shop and buy a bottle of water, it's already got this in it. It's fit for human consumption.
I think
leases, if you intend to lease it out, we're one of the few companies that's got things like the cost reports and the other information that a lease company requires for the insurance companies, and that took 3 months to generate just those sort of things. So lease companies will accept it because we've done.
There are leasing companies that now do accept the SmartMister on leasing. So I think one of them's Siemens, and the other one begins with G. I think Grenke. Yeah, does that sound familiar to everyone? Grenke.
Yeah, I use Grenke mainly anyway, so I've already discussed it with them, and there's not a problem.
So they have approved it. There's another leasing company that's looking at it at the moment, so we'll let you know on that one as well. But
and I submitted all the data to Hitachi as well, so I presume they're a leasing thing.
Yeah.
So, and I got an email this morning to say that's perfect. That's all the information they want now there. So that will probably come into play soon.
Has anyone else got a question?
The odorizing machine, effectively as a byproduct, it's sanitizing. It does air purification effectively.
So legally, we don't call it an air purifier, although it does achieve that, because legally there is no such thing as air purification standard until April of this year. So there's anybody in the entire planet that has an air purifier that conforms to a standard, because a standard did not exist until the 9th of January of this year, which is this one, BS 17272, which we get the lab stuff going through in March. But this is a brand new standard, so nobody can claim to have an air purification system that conforms to government standards yet, because there isn't a standard. It does achieve it. It does all the things that we say, but there's no tick yet from certification. So the actual certification audit, which is going through, that won't be live until the standard becomes legal in April. So it's we're still going through independent test lab and the final side of it. So one's from test lab, one from the standard boards. So it does purify the air, but only as a byproduct, and it's not to be sold as that. It's sold as a surface sanitizer until the new standard becomes legal. And then the same thing will do the same job in the same way. It'll just have a rubber stamp. So,
okay. So in purification by default, it would cleanse the air if it was dust in the environment or pathogens or things that are floating around.
Yeah.
So at any time, COVID apart, if you had 5 people in a 12-person office and 3 of them have got colds and they're touching door handles and all the usual thing, and the big deal that a lot of people notice in big offices is air conditioning is a massive proponent of yams and mank, you know, because it's circulating, and people say, oh yeah, it's the air conditioning because you can't have the windows open, but it's circulating. So presumably this would get into the air conditioning system as well if it's going up into the air, the atmosphere.
There's a question I'd love to talk to you off air. We're doing an Innovate UK study on that subject, and we've got databases full of information about it, recording and how things spread through air conditioning and opening windows and closing, and particle sizes and CO2 levels and lots of stuff. But it's not published yet because the Innovate program's not finished yet. But roughly speaking, this does another thing which I don't really talk too much about, but it's basically got bipolar ionization. So it's got an ionizer built into it, and the ionizer will put in flux the ions that's in the air. So when an aerosol that's say 12 to 16 microns comes in contact with it, it'll become negatively or positively charged depending what it was before, and then ends up in a state of flux. It keeps moving, and when it hits the salt element of it, the sodium element, which is electrostatically charged, basically the two of them collide and hydrogen blows it up, and what you get is it destroys any mostly spores, so things like mushroom spores are the hard one, but you got I forgot the name of the cold virus thing, but it will destroy most ATP life force in the air. In an air conditioning unit, that depends on flow directions and whether they're how it's grounded and lots of other things. So it will destroy what's coming out of it. But going into it, most air conditioners are not air conditioners, they're dehumidifiers. So they'll take the air in and take the moisture away from it and then deliver out moisture-free air. So those sort of things, it does go in and it does clean the inside and it stops Legionnaire's disease, etc. But for that, you've got to be between 5 and 48 degrees C with a relative humidity of 50% is the government standards. That's a whole subject on its own. I can give you a document about it if you're interested.
Right. So it is the case that an ionizer is quite a positive effect on people, isn't it? In terms of you know, ionizing the air is quite a kind of positive thing.
So if you change the ions in the air, it depends if it's positive or negative effect on humans depending on the humidity. If the humidity is between 40 and 60%, generally the effects are positive. If the humidity is below 40%, the effects are negative. If the person's wearing synthetic clothing, it's generally always positive. If the person's wearing things like cotton and they have a detergent in it, it can sometimes be negative. So it's not it's not an instant thing. So what we do is the salt goes in the air, mimics like going into the seaside. So as if you just walked down into a seaside area and the sun's out, basically the ozone's changed, the salt particles in the air, you've taken the space that a pathogen would have taken up in an aerosol in the air and replaced it with sodium salt. And in that salt, it is only 5 microns to 6 microns thick. So for your lungs, it helps your linings, etc. But you've replaced the gap that something would have taken away by ionization with something that's healthy for your body, because your body has this naturally. And because the ions affect that, it tries to make it more positive. So it has an effect that lasts for about 3 hours.
Okay. A lot of people say, you know, for the asthmatic conditions that they're far better near the coast. So that would be that knock-on effect, wouldn't it?
Yes, so this will remove all aerosols greater than 8 microns out of the air. So anybody with asthma that comes in after, say you run this at night time, you come in to your office, your building during the daytime, it stripped all of the rubbish out of the air. That's all became inert, fat and thick, and it's moved away. And then you're left with the lack of those things in the air. So people breathe in no dust, you just have to replace it with water molecules. So you've got to make sure that the air still has enough humidity so that you're breathing in the water. Otherwise, you'll have dry air and that'll give you sore throats. So people with asthma, it works because this will humidify to 50% level and replace the dust in the mites. And there's a little tiny insect that actually floats around in air that we swallow all the time. And we're all going to get in because this lady's face always goes funny when I talk about it. But it takes all those out of the air and kills them. So people with asthma actually like it afterwards. We gave this one as a test. You know, it's something you're not supposed to do, but I gave it to someone really suffers badly from asthma, and I mean badly. And he agreed to put this in his car when he was driving home on his 40-minute journey, turn it off if it overwhelmed him or he felt funny about it, and then tell me, you know, how he copes with it. I was expecting to say, you know, he feels as if he's choking, and he come back in next morning going, I never even noticed it was on. And then the day afterwards, he said, do you know, I've taken this and I put it in my bedroom, and I'm not sneezing as much, and it doesn't feel tight anymore. So he's actually put that in to his bedroom because it had a positive effect on his asthma, and he's using it in the car because cars are full of positive ions, and apart from Ford cars that pull it out, most of them don't have deionizers, and this acts as a deionizer. So he ends up with, he says it makes the car feel comfortable, and it was great for the smell of the car. So he's an asthmatic guy, he's taken this through a very non-scientific experiment, and basically now won't give it back to me because he uses it in his bedroom and his car. So yeah, for people with asthma, they seem to like it as opposed to hate it. If you put this on in a room, like I've done, I put 2 of these on in a tiny room that's basically the size of a small toilet for 3.5 hours with 2 of these at full belt as high as they go. And I sat there trying to work on my computer. And after 3.5 hours, I couldn't see the computer. That for an asthmatic would be too much. So if you accidentally left this on in someone's premises, you press the timer button in the front, and you thought it was in minutes and it was in hours, and it was lying on for 5-6 hours, like one of Becky's friends has done, then it becomes too much for someone with asthma. But that's just like walking into a steam room. They couldn't cope with that either, you know, water molecules. But anyway.
I love it when Ray does answers like that, because it actually means that can you imagine if I'd have tried to answer that one? That was well done, Ray. I think with the unit being on for a long time as well, and talking about alarm systems and things, and we're just mentioning about how if we leave it on for too long, somebody in the NHS has got one of these, and actually they left it on in a fairly small office for an hour. And when they opened the door, it was near one of the big labs in, you know, one of the main ones. And actually, it didn't set off any alarms at all. And like Ray says, it's all dependent on what type of alarm you've got. But it looked like it was something from, you know, where stars in their eyes when they open the door.
Yeah, in a small confined space, that can be too much. Yeah. But that means that it's got into all the grains in the false ceiling. It's got into the grain in the glass. It's got everywhere. So they won't have to.
Felt safe.
But yeah, I mean, this is running in the background, and it's at a good level. It's not uncomfortable, and it's sanitizing just this area, so it's great that way. And this room does smell really fresh. That's
and realistically, you're not really meant to leave the air conditioner on when you've got the big SmartMister.
No, you shouldn't have an aircon on at the same time as you're running the SmartMister, because they'll just fight each other.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Ray. Just wondered about the use of the devices in the car. Does it not coat the inside of the glass? No,
it doesn't build up enough to do that. If you used this one, it would start to after about 4 hours. But the little car one doesn't release enough. And when you're moving, the air inside the car is actually circulating. So unless you press the button on the car that says recirculate air, it wouldn't build up. It would basically be vented out. The cabin of a car is designed to remove CO2 emissions from people to stop you feeling drowsy. So this will basically be removed with the CO2 levels that build up inside a car's cabin. So no, it doesn't build up. It doesn't go into your instruments. It doesn't mess things up. If you use the big one, it would, but these don't.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of marketing collateral or educational resources for potential customers, is that something that we would have access to at all?
Yes.
Yeah,
We have a dealer folder and we put all of the documents that I've created, which are information sheets, not sales documents really. But you know, they'll tell you the product, the specifications, what it does, and then you know, the things that people normally ask about it. We've got question and answer documents, and then we've got photographs and clip art and artwork and videos that you put your own logos on. So they go out with your information on it, not ours. So there's a whole bunch of information.
So I'm just saying, do you operate with plain label? So if you got 10, you know, would you need to keep stock yourself, or would that go out direct to your customers, plain label? Say 5 different locations, that kind of thing.
So the documentation is got things like, so everything that goes out has got like dealer logo and dealer reorder number. So in the bottom it will say dealer support number, quote the dealer number to reorder the Hoco liquid. So documentation goes out with on the website, you know, dealer information here, put your logo and website and stuff information there. And then document that way. The unit itself doesn't go out with a cardboard box saying your logo on it, unless you buy lots of them and then I'll put it on.
I think the thing to remember is that data directs have no interest at all in end users. That's all for you guys to do. We've never had any interest. That, you know, the whole point of what we do with everything that we do is to sell to you guys, to enable you guys to sell more. So the SmartMister brand is something that I think you should actively push, because it's your brand, it's your logo. You know, obviously putting your details on there as well is something that's important, but we have got no interest whatsoever in what happens. The only thing that we want to do is enable you guys to sell more. So like Ray's done with the documentation, it's got slots for you to put things in, and away you go.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that'd be helpful. I mean, I've worked many times in the past where, you know, somebody may look something up on the internet and find it and think, they've gone direct. So there's a large procurement company who may think, I don't necessarily want to work with what would be apparent would be a small distributor, but I prefer to deal direct. So if we were to say to you, right, this is the name of the company, so that you're aware of it, alert to it, presumably you could say, right, well, if they come direct to us and say, yeah, we'll promise you, what are those?
I must admit, we have had something similar before, quite recently. And what we will always do, if anybody comes into us and says to us, you know, can we buy from somewhere? We won't obviously sell to them. What we'll try and do is put them in touch with an area or somebody that's in that area to put them in touch with. Now, there was a recent situation where nobody told us that they'd actually done a big flyer to a certain type of industry. And when the inquiries came in, we just automatically put them out to the people in that area. But if we don't know about it, there's nothing that we can, you know, do to kind of help with that. So if there is somebody in particular that you've got in touch with, then obviously let us know. But again, it's not Data Direct that are interested. What we're trying to do is make sure that you guys, we put it straight back out to you guys anyway. So yeah, just let us know if there is anything like that that you're trying to do. And again, you know, I know we've said it before, but Ray is here to help. So if he can be of any help with your customers as far as doing something similar to this is concerned, absolutely no problem. You know, I know everybody that comes on these webinars feels so much more at ease after hearing Ray talk about the product. I'm not so sure that they feel at ease that me talking about it, but definitely when Ray talks about it, they understand, you know, how much safer they feel from having a SmartMister in their building.
And so just to move on a little bit to sort of distribution and that kind of thing, is that possible to, do you guys handle that? Can we send direct from you, or do we need to order in bulk, or do we order in little quantities, or how does that work?
Well, and again, that's a really good point. One thing that we've really gone with on this is, there's no dealer differentiation. What we want to do is make sure that you're all the same, so ultimately, we all have the same RRP, which we hope that everyone sticks to, and we all have the same buy price. So if you buy 10,000 or you buy one, you will get the same price for the unit. And I think that's really important at the moment, because what we're trying to do is make copy of businesses survive. So if somebody's got a really good relationship with their friend down the road who's trying to sell a SmartMister, I don't think that somebody that, has bought 10,000 of them should be able to come in and sweep it up because they can do it cheaper. This product has to be sold in person, not online, it has to be sold, and ultimately you will get the good price for it. But yeah, absolutely, we can do directs from here. It's no problem at all.
And does everything come with full instructions, like, idiot-proof, sort of open the box and, right, this is how I use it, this is when I put the stuff in, this is when I clean it, change it. The filtration system, Ray, is that, like when the filter gets clogged, does a light come on to say, right, clean your filter? Because if it's taking pathogen particles in.
Is this on the big model you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
And it comes up with it does two things. It'll inform the app that it stopped working, and unfortunately, right now it doesn't tell you what's gone wrong. It just gives you an error code, and I haven't written that into the firmware of that yet. It just tells you it's not working properly. So if the system becomes, if it detects 20% deviation from the normal of, we have a luminometer built into it that shines a light, and it basically roughly counts the fluid going out to adjust the flow rate. And if that is out by more than 20%, it gives you an error. And if it's out more than a few times, it shuts the machine down and gives you an error on the screen. If you change the liquid or clean the transducer inside, that generally fixes it. The filter in the back is good for 30,000 litres. So it depends on the environment you put that in, but you can visually see when that's full. It's got a tiny bit of titanium dioxide in it, so in theory, when it changes, it goes grey, and it's dark. It's really dark purple. It looks black now, but it will change colour slightly when it goes off as well. And then you could buy a new filter, which we're going to do in 3 packs. We've not got on the price list yet, but we're going to do in 3 packs. But you expect a couple of years before you have to do that, unless it's in a factory condition. It's you're building cars and there's lots of grease or something in it, or lots of big hairs. So most of the things you're fine. The filters that are in these, no, there's no indication. It just stops working when the thing comes out there. It's basically 2 things normally happen. You normally have to take this filter and push it down, so push it back into the base, or take that filter out and replace it. It's normally just gravity has got this thing, and it needs to be pushed down a bit. And that's kind of it so far.
Just in terms of the consumable items, sorry, Becky. In terms of the consumable items, do you have a standard price list that we can have?
Well, normally it's things like the liquid, which is on the price list. The filters I haven't added yet because I don't have enough stock of them yet. I won't have that until about May.
Okay.
I don't think anybody will need them probably until about December.
I've got a full price list though now, Godfrey, that is actually a full breakdown of everything. So it's got one where it's got the machine with the solution, with the warranty, then we've got the warranty separate, we've got the SmartMister solution separate, and then the mini and obviously the car one as well. So we have got a new price list actually that we can send across to you. And We were planning on doing it after the meeting to everybody that's on, but obviously sometimes there can be, someone can put an end user on just to see what the meeting's about. So that's hence the reason why we don't talk about pricing or anything. So what we'll do is
I understand that.
your account manager and just ask for the full price list now, and we'll make sure we get that across to you.
Just a quick tip. I actually put the large SmartMister into a local hotel. One thing I would say is, because they've done away with these little cans that they pay £10 for, and replaced it with this unit. Don't fill the hockey to the top, because when you're transporting it to different rooms, it's quite difficult to maneuver with it. That's the only drawback I have found with it.
I found that the other day when I brought this one downstairs, and literally, fortunately, I'm wearing black. Because I was literally covered. I smelled very nice and clean, but I was covered.
Yeah.
It's so that part there, you're transporting it, should be upside down, because there's a little release valve here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a reservoir of liquid in it. So if you don't wait until it runs out and you transport it in its full, then yes, that's the part that does it. So it's normally put it in a trolley, like a school would do.
Okay.
On a trolley.
That's a great tip as well, though, Godfrey. I mean, and I think it's something important for us all to be able to talk about, and that's one thing that I wanted to happen more, was that dealers talk to each other about it. It should be going into a hotel. It absolutely should be going into a hotel. Products like
I don't mind sharing that.
Yeah,
No.
Godfrey, which hotel, please? No,
It's a bit too late. That shit's floated away now, Italy.
yeah, but as I said, yeah, Ray, great presentation. You obviously know a lot about SmartMister, so thank you very much. You've also given away the secret why Marianne and Becky look like they do, using it as a spray. Just quick questions. What's the warranty on all of the three machines? What's the standard warranty for all three?
This one is a year, and we can extend that for leasing to 3 years. And these are a swap out of 1 year, and I have no intention of extending it to beyond that.
Okay.
I don't know how long this will last long term, because I've only been using it for about 4 months in total.
Okay.
I just don't know. This one I've used in another industry, really, to grow mushrooms. And I know how long this lasts. It's about 5 years. So if you maintain this one well, it's fine. But this one's still an unknown. So it's 1 year on that, and it's 1 to 3 years on this.
And on the Mini Mister and the Car Mister, I take it's called the Car Mister, yes?
Yeah, so model number is SM SmartMister.
Yeah.
And then it's mini because it's not big.
Yeah, I understand.
It's DT 500, desktop 500 milliliters, or it's AAM automotive 300 milliliters. And I might have another one which it doesn't have a built-in battery in it, which will have a similar name, but it's just mini automotive, mini desktop.
Yeah, easy. That's fine. And with those two smaller ones, is there a place where you refill with the solution, or?
Yeah, so it runs out. This is a battery level indicator that shows you how much battery you've got left in this.
Yeah.
It's basically hold the base, turn anti-clockwise, wiggle out, and
okay.
Fill that up to, I don't know if you can see it, there's a fill.
Yeah, there's a maximum level, yeah.
Yeah. Close it, there's a little gasket seal away it goes. But I've written the instructions on here in pictorials of basically how to open it, twist it, how to fill it, refill it, and repeat. So anybody that picks this up, doesn't
it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, absolutely.
It literally just reads that, and it tells you press 1 for full mode, 2 for normal mode, and how long to leave it on for, etc.
Yeah, and it's the solution behind you is what's used to refill all of them, basically. And is that only in 5 litres, or is there a smaller version for the?
There is. So it's 5 litres or 20 litres, and then there's a 500 milliliter.
Okay.
We've got a 20 litre one at our place at the moment, and oh my god, Honestly, I'd spilt half of it, but by the time I tried to pour most of it into the actual machine, it's so heavy. So the 5 litre, I think, is probably the best one.
Yeah.
And cost-wise, this works out much cheaper than,
Yeah, absolutely.
because you're paying for the squirting mechanism of these every time.
Yeah.
You could put this into a plant mister and do your desk with it, and go to a garden centre, spend £1, £2, and a good quality plant mister and get the same. Or this is actually made to be refillable, so you can just keep using it and fill it from 5 litre. We do a little handheld cap for the 5 litre and the 20 litre that allows you to put it on a desk and turn a cap as if you're putting wine into it, and then it fills up. But
I can just add something as well, just to add to Godfrey's tip, because that was a great tip, Godfrey. On the desktop mister, on the inside, there's a tube which has a foam sponge in it, which looks like a sort of extended cigarette. If you soak that sponge in the SmartMister solution before you put it in, it will work instantly. If you don't, it will need to absorb the liquid up the sponge, and that might take 5 to 10 minutes before you start seeing the SmartMist come out. So if you do fill it up and you turn it on and nothing happens, it's because the SmartMister solution hasn't absorbed all the way up the sponge yet. So my tip for the day is pre-soak the sponge in the SmartMister. Then when you turn it on, it works straight away.
And read the instructions, because it does say that on there.
I have written that on there now, which I didn't do in the very prototype ones I sent up to you guys. But
Yeah.
that is now incorporated, Stuart, into the instructions.
Super, because it wasn't previously.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was obvious, but yeah.
Thank you. That's really good. Thank you.
For it. So
Obviously, Becky earlier was saying about the price is the same throughout, whether you're buying 1, 10 or 100 of the units, but are there price breaks on the solution if you buy a bit larger volumes of the solution?
To be honest, I think we went too cheap on the solution to start with, but anyway, I think what we've done is we've made sure there's a low price point, so that actually it's a consumable item for you guys to sell into your customers. So the pricing on that, unfortunately, there's just no break at all, because it is very low. In fact, yeah, it's the 5 litre. So both machines come with the SmartMister itself comes with 2 5 litres built in, and then the Mini comes with a 1 5 litre.
yes.
But the pricing on those, you won't, you'll be absolutely fine with those.
And just can I point out that we got shouted at for making this too cheap. This is sold with another label and not in a saline thing to dentists for £80 for 5 litres. So dentists are used to buying this same liquid with a different label on it for £80. And if you go into Boots the chemist, you can buy that for £94. So the liquid, we went out really cheaply with it. And online, that you buy 2 of these for, it's generally about £40 they kind of go for. And if any of our dealers advertise it at too low a price, we'll stop supplying them with it to try and protect the price of the units, etc. But no, it doesn't really change too much until you get to the 1,000 litre drums of it. Then it doesn't drop dramatically in price.
And if any of you buy a 1,000 litre drum, I will make sure there's a discount.
The cost of carriage on the 1,000 litre drum is greater than the cost of the liquid.
Well, probably, yeah, that's true. That's true.
It is.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, we put no RRP on the actual solution itself. So again, I think that everything that we've talked about today is a very much a sales kind of approach. So you sell the solution, you sell the SmartMister as what it does, and the solution with it to what it's doing, and then obviously you can charge the price that the product's worth.
Yeah, and the solution, you won't believe when people start to use that, they put it in sprays, and then they go through lots of that for spraying their toilet, spraying their face, putting it in their hair and combing it, all sorts of crazy uses for it. So you tend to sell lots and lots of the liquid of it because it has so many uses. It really does.
We can do on the price list as well. They're nowhere near that kind of range. But yeah, particle sensors sell separately. realistically, you probably only need 1 or 2 per company, so that actually, you know, when you're going out doing a sales call on the product, you can show where it's actually getting to. That's realistically what the particle sensor is for. So you probably only need it when you're going out to see clients.
Yeah, this one's more of a sales tool. A salesman would go along with this and then point out to a customer that this is actually reaching an area, because although you can't see the mist, like right now, things are turned off and you can't see a mist in the air, but it's really high numbers if it's all in the air. So this is a sales tool that proves that it's actually lingering in the air and it's lasting even when this is turned off in that area. And this desk has been sanitized. Even when I rub this, you know, I'm rubbing this all the time and it's still there. And if I rub it with a microfiber cloth, it's still there for an hour. If I don't rub it with a microfiber cloth, it's there for 18 hours. So this is a sales tool to prove that it's reaching somewhere. This is a diagnostic tool for an insurance company that basically says it's done a job. I can actually prove on this area in this one little square that I've tested that it's done a job. Yeah.
And again, that's not something that you necessarily have to buy as one of those. We can do the test. Well, Ray can do the testing for you, not me. Ray can do the testing to prove that it's got to the standard that, you know, insurance levels need.
You wouldn't normally need those. It's only if you want to turn that into a business thing itself and actually offer it as a service. Otherwise, you're driving out on site and doing swaps because someone says to you, I don't know if it works or doesn't work, and then they're using you to get free tests instead of spending £1,000 to £1,500 getting a company to do a swab test like a pub would have to do. So it's a, you know, that one is a specialist market. There's companies specialising in going out and doing swabs with these, and this is a tool to show you that something's got working in an area, and then you're just trusting the certifications, etc.
Right. Do the little units work off a USB into your computer instead of trailing a cable near your desk if they're sort of more individualized, smaller units? Do they run off a USB connection?
So the big ones don't, because they are mains only, and you'd have to put them on a trolley and push around with mains or put a battery. These are USB.
Right.
This one will work on so this one is a 2.5 amp USB, and this one will do a 5 amp USB for rapid charging. So
and they hold charge as well, do they?
Say again?
They will hold charge after they've been charged.
Yes. This one is a 16550 lithium battery, so it'll hold 4,200 milliamperes. So effectively that is, roughly speaking, about 10 hours of normal mode and about 4 or 5 hours in its highest mode.
I think we are looking at, aren't we, Ray? Because that's not, because like I say, on the mini units, this one is out now. The car one isn't out now as such. So we are looking at a slightly different one in the fact that it's going to be actually charging in the car as it's going, because it won't actually have a battery in it. So this one is the absolute portable one, whereas this one is obviously mains fed. And the car one, I think ultimately we're thinking out with Ray will ultimately be USB plugged in the car.
The car one might be USB powered and doesn't have a battery in it. Currently I have a battery in it. I'm having problems getting these through customs because of the battery. And these ones here are don't have a battery in it. And so you just put a USB in. It also then has a USB out so that you can continue the cycle.
But I think the great thing about that is it becomes a car product. You know, it is literally a car product, whereas this one is your ultimate portable one, and this is the one that actually puts out more of the solution at the same time as well. So it means that you're actually safer than the actual either of the car ones.
Yeah,
this is the portable one.
Ray,
Thank you very much.
So I know obviously there's not many people left on now, but just to say thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate everybody. If you've got any more questions, then obviously if you just relay them to your account manager, and they will be passed on to Ray. But you'll get a video of today's webinar, and that'll be sent through to you in the next couple of days. if that's okay with you. But thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So,
Thanks,
Take
Mr.
care.
Becky, do you have a list of hot leads that you can send out as well? That'd be really cool.
Definitely. No worries. Take care,
Thanks a
everybody.
lot, guys.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Any other questions?